After a long and haunting night filled with fear, they returned home and immediately shared everything with their parents. The nightmare they had experienced still clung to their thoughts, vivid and chilling, as they described each detail: the strange sounds, the darkness, the feeling of being watched. Their parents listened closely, trying to make sense of it. No one in the house could sleep that night. Instead, they sat together in the dimly lit hall, the silence broken only by whispers and the occasional creak of the old wooden furniture. Even though the sun had begun to rise, the tension from the night refused to leave them. Eventually, exhaustion took over. Around midday, they lay down to rest, the sunlight gently filtering through the curtains. They fell into a deep, dreamless sleep. Time passed quickly, and by the time they woke up, it was late afternoon. They had to return to their hometown that evening, so they quietly packed their belongings, moving slowly, still weighed down by the strange emotions from the previous night. The shadows outside began to stretch longer, and a quiet unease crept back in. As they stepped out, dark clouds had gathered, and within minutes, rain began to pour heavily. By the time they reached the bus stop, they were drenched, and the news was worse. Their scheduled bus had been canceled due to the storm. The rain was merciless, pounding the roof of the shelter above them, and the cold wind pierced through their clothes. They waited, watching as others slowly gave up and left. Hours dragged by, and the bus stand emptied, leaving only a few determined travelers. Around 9 p.m., just when they had started to lose hope, a bus appeared out of the mist, its headlights cutting through the rain like blades of light. They were relieved but confused. The bus looked old, almost forgotten by time, and inside there were no passengers, only the driver and a conductor, both silent, both avoiding eye contact. The group hesitated. The rain was still falling hard, and there were no other options. They stepped in, finding seats near the middle of the bus, by trying to shake off the growing feeling of discomfort. The bus started moving, its engine groaning as it turned onto a narrow road leading into the forest. The road was completely deserted, lined with tall trees that swayed under the force of the wind. The only sounds were the rhythmic splash of the tires against water and the occasional thunder rumbling in the distance. No one spoke. It felt as though the darkness outside was seeping into the bus itself. Then, after nearly an hour of silence and tension, the bus slowed down and came to a sudden halt. The conductor stood up and, in a strangely calm voice, said the name of the stop: Midnight. That one word sent a chill down their spines. Midnight wasn't a name they had ever heard for a stop, and the forest around them made the name feel more like a warning than a location. Without explanation, the lights inside the bus flickered and went out completely. The engine remained on, humming softly, but everything else was cloaked in darkness. A thick silence took over. Just when they began to wonder if they should get off or stay still, they saw movement in the distance. Through the rain-blurred window, a couple appeared, running desperately toward the bus. They were soaked to the skin, the man holding a child tightly in his arms while the woman followed close behind. Their faces were filled with fear, but it was not just from the storm. It looked like they were running from something. They banged on the bus door, pleading to be let in. The driver didn't move. Neither did the conductor. It was as if they didn't even see the family standing there in the rain. The passengers looked at each other in confusion. One of them stood and shouted to open the door. But before anyone could react, the couple outside suddenly vanished, as if swallowed by the night. Not a trace of them was left, not even footprints in the wet ground. Everyone in the bus sat frozen. The lights came back on by themselves, and the engine roared louder. The bus moved again, slowly at first, then faster, as though trying to escape something unseen. The rest of the journey passed in silence, none daring to speak of what they saw. When they finally reached their town, the clock struck midnight. No one ever spoke of the midnight stop again, and no one could explain what they saw that night, only that the fear they felt was real, and something in that forest didn't belong to this world.